May the words of my lips and the meditation of our hearts be now and always acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Have you ever looked out your window or clicked off the TV or put down the newspaper and wondered to yourself, what in the world is going on? What in the world is going to happen next? For me, lately, it's almost a constant question at the back of my mind, gnawing away at my sense of comfort or maybe my complacency. Just look at what we've been through in the past year, or the past 2 years, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 10 years. It's been a lot. There's the big stuff, the big world stuff, of course. The war in Ukraine is now in its second year, and all the isolation the world could muster to stop Russia in its tracks doesn't seem to be working. Who wasn't stunned by the attack on Israel a few weeks ago, as Hamas stormed a music concert and terrorized and killed and captured young adults really from all over the world? And who wasn't stunned by Israel's attack on Gaza, where about half of those who have been killed are children, and where hospitals are becoming the battle zone? All of this, I'm afraid, will change our world in immeasurable ways. And so China is looking to become the world's leading superpower. India is accused of killing a Canadian on Canadian soil. The US seems virtually incapable of governing itself because of extreme polarization. The world is changing, and changing fast. And no one knows where it will end. And then there's also the church stuff, too. Trinity is currently in the middle of changes, as Julie has been off for health reasons for over a year. And it's not certain when you'll be able to welcome Elijah, your new minister. And so week by week, you don't know who's going to be up at the front. Maybe not quite a game of musical chairs, but certainly more like a game of musical pulpits. Talk about change week by week. But I'm also thinking of the bigger picture about the church. According to most reports, the church as we know it is now on the endangered species list. While faith in God seems to remain pretty constant across the country and around the world, faith in the church has been on a steady decline, so much so that many of our mainline denominations like yours and like mine are wondering how they will survive. It looks as though one parish that I've been connected to in southern Manitoba for the past 10 years or more is about to face the tough question of whether they can keep going or not. It's a painful question. It's a painful change in their lives and in the life of their community, as I'm sure many of you understand. Maybe it was COVID that changed church attendance. Maybe the history of residential schools has made people question the church. Maybe the scandals of abusive leadership have tarnished the church. Maybe it's all of these, and maybe it's more. I can't think of a major denomination that doesn't currently have a fault line running right down the middle of it. We are losing the language of faith in the wider culture, which is why many observers call this the post-Christian era, as I'm sure you've heard. That's the kind of change that we're living in as a church. We all know about climate change too, don't we? We know the stories about endangered habitats for polar bears, or dwindling glaciers and ice fields, or the alarming rates of icebergs breaking off Greenland and Antarctica. We've been through a summer of forest fires and high temperatures. And it's almost as if we can see all the changes around us. Our climate is changing, and yet we don't know what to do. We can't seem to come to some kind of consensus as much as we try. What will a changed climate look like down the road? How different will our world be? Well, are you depressed yet? Because I'm not done. Hang on. What about all the changes you've been through personally? Some of them might be really good, like the birth of a child or a grandchild, or a graduation or a marriage, or maybe a young person leaving home for the first time to make their way in the world. Such exciting times and exciting changes, we think. But some of them aren't so good. Those words from the doctor that change everything. I'm sorry, but I have some bad news. That seismic heartache that comes after someone we love has died. The trip to the boss's office to find out your position has been terminated. And then there's just those annoying changes that you have to endure, like growing older. What's that pain in my shoulder? It never used to be there. You know what I mean, because you know what change is like in your own life, big or small. It's at this point, amidst the constant barrage of time and change and decay, that insteps that well-known and beautiful passage from Ecclesiastes. For me, these words calm me down. They're like letting go of a big breath, a deep sigh, letting go of stress. They give me a sense of the bigger picture, and they reorient me towards the wisdom of God's ways. For everything there is a season, a time for every matter under heaven. Change is built into the system, because as surely as there is birth, there is death. As surely as there is mourning, there is dancing. As surely as there is war, there is peace. Everything has its time. Those balanced phrases of this passage suggest that there is a natural pattern to life, if we can only remind ourselves of the bigger spiritual picture. And I have to admit that one of my go-to pastoral techniques in jail is precisely this: to remind people that everything changes. The young people or women that I've worked with over the years are often watching their lives disintegrate in front of them. They're separated from their home, from their family, from their friends. They don't really understand the courts, but they're facing years and years in custody, probably not for the first time, but hopefully for the last time. They may be withdrawing from an addiction. They may be psychotic. They may be depressed. They may be looking at their lives for the first time in a long time, or for the first time ever, with so much regret, so much remorse, so much guilt. So they despair. They feel condemned in their hearts. They feel like giving up. And so sometimes the thing that they need to hear is everything changes. Where you are right now will not last forever. Now is guilt, but tomorrow is forgiveness. Now is despair, but tomorrow is acceptance. Now is your sentence, but tomorrow is your freedom. Do not get stuck in the moment. Look ahead. For everything, there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. And maybe not just those in jail. Maybe you and I need to hear those words too. And so there is the good news. When you feel like you can't stomach one more change, when you feel you don't have the energy to face another storm, when you worry about what the future will look like, or if there will be a future at all, the good news is that you cannot get pushed further than God can reach out to catch you. You cannot get shoved around beyond what you can bear. If it's a time to throw away, there will come a time to keep. If it's a time to keep, there will come a time to throw away. The timing, the wisdom, the turning is God's. Your stewardship committee has suggested this theme of change as part of this year's stewardship message. And so I wonder how that theme might inform your thinking about stewardship. To be a good steward in the midst of change is an important calling for any congregation. To be a good steward in the midst of change can heighten or focus your understanding of your purpose. In the midst of change, what is your purpose? What is Trinity's purpose given the way our world is going? What is your purpose as a community when people are struggling through change like never before? What is your purpose as people wait for a new time to emerge? What is your purpose? Maybe in a statement or two, a sentence or two. And in your answer, I wonder if you'll find yourself at the very heart of what stewardship is all about. For you, for now, for this place. How can you use your resources, your gifts, your energy, your vision, your money, your dreams, your time? How can you use everything you have, everything God has given you to make you who you are? How can you use all of that to help God's people navigate this world of change? And believe me, I hesitate to get specific, simply because I don't know your congregation as well as you do, as thoroughly as I should. But I'm impressed by the ways in which Trinity faces change. Look what happened during COVID, when suddenly your leadership became tech geniuses and started online worship. I used to kind of nudge Julie about that. There she was organizing all of this online material, and I was saying, I'm so glad I'm not in a parish anymore. I could not do that. But she stepped up. You as a congregation pivoted when you needed to. You stayed connected to one another, even when everything felt disconnected, when we were being told to disconnect. Or look how your grief team cares for those whose world has changed completely following the death of someone close. Or look how you repurposed your building when a nursery school was looking for space. Or look how your church has acknowledged the sin and harm of residential schools. Or how it has publicly and intentionally become a safe place for the LGBTQ+ community. Look at how you offered leadership to Syrian refugees. Can you imagine going through that kind of change? Look at how you are willing to grow and evolve in changing times. When you support Trinity with your presence, this is what you are doing. You are giving strength to a world and giving hope to individuals who are in the middle of change. When thinking of stewardship as a congregation, it's a good thing to ask yourself, what is Trinity's purpose at this time? What time is it? What time is today? Is it a time for faith or for doubt? Is it a time for separation or is it a time to gather? Is it a time to give up or is it a time to persevere? Is it the end or is it the beginning? In all of it, it's a time of change. May God give you all as a congregation the wisdom to tell the right time. May God give you all as a congregation the wisdom of the big picture. May God give you all as a congregation a peace that can face every matter under heaven, a peace that passes all understanding, even, or maybe especially, in a time of change. Thanks be to God. Amen.